Welcome to the Kids with Big Emotions podcast. I am your host, Andi Clark, and today I have with me another homeschooling mom who is a former teacher who has just such amazing gifts with kids. We have Amy with us today, and Amy, just thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you for having me. I can tell you a little bit about myself. Yes?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what I was going to ask for sure.
Okay, so my name is Amy Dooley. I was a public school teacher for about 15 years. And the last 6 of those years were in special education. So I served students with autism and some big behaviors and emotionals and some disabilities along those lines. And I loved every moment of my educational career until right after COVID. A lot of things changed. And once COVID happened, like a lot of other people, I had some revelations about how I wanted to live and spend my time. And at that same precipice, an opportunity to homeschool my son just came out of nowhere. And I said yes to that opportunity. And then I was able to delve into my new career path. And my parent coaching business was born shortly after that as a way for me to continue benefiting children and students by supporting their parents, because that's truly where my passion will always lie, is working with children. And so now I work with their parents so that I can still have a way to work with children.
That's absolutely amazing. Yeah. So, something you told me about at the start of your career was that you used to think that it was more like control based in a classroom, like do as you're told. This is how it works, like the old style of parenting. And it really is like there's such a shift now in that changing. But can you tell about how that was when you first came into teaching and how the kids responded to that and where that shift happened?
Yes. So I'm so thankful that I'm 15 years past where I started. Now me is embarrassed and has to forgive younger me for the things that I didn't know at the time. But when I first started out teaching, I was 20. So I was the youngest one, and fresh out of my parents' house. And so controlling children is what we do. If you want to prove you're a good teacher, then your students don't talk. If you want to be the one that other teachers look at, then your kids do what they're told. They don't ask questions, they're in line, there's no behaviors, etc. So the only way I knew how to do that was to threaten or to bribe or to punish. So there was a lot of reward charts. There's a lot of, oh, well, you messed up, and I'm telling the whole class, and now everyone's going to watch you move your color clip down, and everyone now knows that you made the mistake. So it was really just more of like, are you embarrassed enough to behave now? Which looking back, I'm like, oh, I thought that's how you did it. I thought I had to be scarier, louder, bigger. And it's not that I didn't have good relationships with my students back then, because maybe, as you know, like even children in really icky parenting situations, they still love their parents. They still want to please. And so I had good relationships with the children, but I think it just wasn't birthed from a place of like safety and connection. It was more birthed out of, well, you're my boss, you're in charge, so I have to XYZ. And if we get along in the meantime, great. But it's not like there was this, it's not like I saw them,
Mm.
I didn't see the children.
Oh, that's big.
I did not connect with the child. I just saw what I now call symptoms, what was going on for them.
Let's stop on that for a second because this is huge. And I've actually never thought of the old style of parenting that way, where, as I know for me in my cares, my C is really, it's changing that lens from understanding that old style of parenting where we were respect your elders, which we still need to respect people. Like I get that. But if somebody is being mean and rude to you and all of that stuff, we should be able to set boundaries with them, even as a child. But what you just said is huge in them not being seen.
Yeah.
Because and we think of that Coke bottle analogy, that if you're shaking and shaking and shaking that Coke bottle because of stressors that have been happening all day, when you see the outburst, when you see the bad behavior, when that Coke bottle finally explodes, it's usually because of all the shakes that happened beforehand. And if a parent stops to see that, if you actually stop to see Why? See it not as this bad behavior that needs to be punished, but see it as this child is asking for help and support from me. And you start seeing it as signs of they really need my support and my help. And who are they? Who is this individual? What has their Coke bottle shake?
Right.
You know, you start seeing them as an individual too when you stop that style of parenting.
You do. And I like that Coke bottle analogy you just gave. The natural state of that Coke bottle is not a fizzed up, exploding Coke bottle.
Mm-mm.
The natural state of that Coke bottle is a nice glass bottle with very calm liquid inside, and it's appeasing and it's nice and everybody likes it.
Right.
And what we're seeing when we're looking at the children, and like when I was teaching, I wasn't seeing the Coke bottle. I was seeing the explosion. I was seeing the fizz. I was seeing the yelling, the fidgetiness, the tattletaling, the evading truth, like all that. And I'm thinking, I'm seeing, well, there's something wrong with you. There's something wrong with you. You know, because all I'm seeing is the symptoms. And then it wasn't until a couple of years into teaching where I was like, oh, that what I'm seeing isn't the child. I'm seeing the things that are occurring to the child because of A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z. And the child is underneath that. And that's who I need to be looking at. I need to be seeing this child. So if I can see them in their original state, the state that they're meant to be in, curious and outgoing and funny and wild and innocent, well, then I can handle the fizz and the outburst because I know like those don't define the child, and it's not something to be fixed, but rather that child underneath needs to be seen, heard, nurtured, and witnessed as a child.
And you just said that exploding Coke bottle does not define the child. Mm-hmm. But quite often we do hear your child has a behavior problem because they're focusing on, they have defined that child based on the outburst, the behavior, the anxiety, the frustration, the anger, whatever that child has. And they've defined that child based on that versus actually looking at who is this child. And underneath is usually like, I mean, it always is.
Yes.
It does not matter how explosive that child is. It's almost like the more explosive a child is, the more you actually find the tenderest, most empathetic person in between that is just hurting like crazy and masking and hiding all of their internal struggles to try to have everything appear okay, only to explode. And it's like we define them by the explosion. My child's a bad child.
Yep.
My
and
child.
We start defining them. They're defiant. They're disrespectful. They're mean.
Yeah.
And they'll become that. Our children become what we tell them that they are and what they hear that they are. So yes, if you're, if they've gotten to this point where, the behavior is defining the child, all you're seeing is the behavior. Well, that's how the child then defines themselves. Yeah. When really underneath it, it's really like you said, there's the tenderest little child underneath that really only wants belonging, acceptance, safety, and they'll do anything they can do. They'll do anything, including the craziest behaviors, to try to get those needs met. And when we only look at that behavior, we're missing their cry for help. Like you said, we're missing that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. So parents listening to this, they're getting this, they're hearing us, they're saying, okay, I get this. This is my child for crying for help. What do I do? What do you say?
You have to start. We got to start with yourself, and really to start with yourself before you can start with your child, and start telling yourself truths about your child. My child is loving. My child needs me. My child is just trying to communicate with me. And if they could do it better, they would. So the first thing I think that parents need to do is assign positive intent to their child. So instead of, you're pushing my buttons, why are you doing this to me? It's, wow, you're having a really hard time. You must need something. Oh, what is it? Assigning positive intent allows you to start that new lens, like you were talking about, kind of shifting the lens. And we haven't even gotten to the child yet. But when someone assumes my positive intent, I feel like they get me. I'm like, oh, even though it didn't turn out the way I wanted, you understood me. Okay. You know where my heart is. And first step, we got to see our children's hearts and that they really are good. And they're just trying the best with their very, very limited capacity, their very limited brain function, because they're not working with a full brain. We need to see them as working the best they can with what they have. And that's step number one, because then you're going to soften. You're going to see your child's wild behavior. You're going to see it. And then you're going to say, that's a cry for help. Now my heart is softer. I can now receive my child in this moment instead of butting up to my child in this moment.
Exactly that, right? Like, and it's hard because we are, I don't want to even use the word conditioned. Mm-hmm. It's just everything. So every single generation is always doing the best that they can with the tools that they have. We're all parenting. I'm going to mess up my kids. You're going to mess up your kids. Like none of us are going to be perfect. We're all doing things with all of the tools that we're learning and growing and growing. Now, with the internet out there now, there's so much information at our fingertips as us as parents than our parents had. Yeah. And so they were going by a lot of older beliefs, that's a better word than conditioned.
Yeah. Yes.
There were different beliefs in the past as to how you should parent to get a child to behave. And yes, when you drill those things into a child in that controlling way of telling them how they have to behave, the majority of the kids can do it, but you're still never seeing that child for who they are, who they're worth. And now we're seeing a lot of those kids. I mean, us as parents, how many of us as parents believe that we're not good enough, or we're not smart enough, or we're not strong enough, or people won't want to hang with us, or I have to do what everybody says in order to be liked. I can't be myself. I can't go outside of this box and think and dream, because then I'm not going to be accepted, because we were told we had to behave certain ways and stay in this box and stay in these parameters. Mm-hmm. And so I just want parents to know that these are all beliefs that have been brought up through time, and they've all adapted and slowly changed through time. We're just in this shift in time right now where there's so many people able to bring all their research and data out to the forefront and collaborate at all, that we are starting to see so much data that is not the parenting style that works.
Right.
And so we have to.
It's not the one that says, I am worthy with a period at the end.
Yes.
It's I'm worthy when I behave. I'm worthy when I people please. I'm worthy when I don't uphold my boundaries because I don't want to upset anybody. I'm worthy when it's all very conditional. And I'm so thankful for this shift, because I feel like the children are demanding it. The children these days are demanding this shift. You simply cannot parent the way that generations before us did, because the children are not tolerating it. But I find that to be such a positive thing, because we finally have kids that are so trauma and generational trauma is passed down through the body. So I feel like these children, whatever's been passing down, they're finally like, look, we're fed up. Okay, I'm going to be unapologetically myself. You can take it or leave it, but I am worthy with a period at the end. And it doesn't matter, like, my behavior, my feelings, my this, like, I'm one of them. So many of my friends, we're all in our mid-30s and we're going to therapy because we need to understand that we're worthy with a period at the end. And I have a voice that's important, and I have emotions that deserve to be validated. And that's what our kids are demanding. Our kids are yearning for that. And it's coming out in their actions and in their behaviors. And so it's us, it's the parents. We have to say, no, there's not something wrong with the children. The children are demanding justice. We have to shift. We have to say, oh my gosh, I didn't see you before. Oh, I see you now. And that's it's a journey. Like you said, there's no perfect parent. But we're now in a place where we have so much more information and so much more knowledge of brain science and emotional intelligence, where we can say, oh, we're not doing that anymore. And we can start seeing that child in front of us, because like you said, and underneath that child is just someone who wants safety and security, to be seen. And isn't that what we all want anyways?
Absolutely. And that's everything I love this. I wrote down, I am worthy with a period. Because what you said is so true. And I was chatting with my neighbor, I think it was almost 2 summers ago. we were painting the front of the house. She was helping me paint. We were like talking about this, and she said that she believes that this is the generation that is starting to break generational patterns. And that's, so I'm 51, and it's like you're in your 30s, 50s. So I think it's parents, right? We have this larger group of parents. There is definitely still a camp of parents that are not ready to do the work, and that's okay, because we have to be ready to do it. It's not easy. It's there.
Yeah.
But in order to help our kids, we also first have to help ourselves, because if we do not feel that we are worthy, with a period, right? If we feel that we need to work harder to be worthy, if we need to make more money to be worthy, if we need to behave a certain way to be worthy, then that is also what we're going to be teaching our children. And so a lot of this starts with us as parents as well, is doing the work. And I've done so much work on myself, like to the point that I'm like a coach in so many of these things, right? Like I'm a trauma-informed coach. Like I do all of this trauma-informed work with my clients, this generational traumas. Like I do all of this with my clients in the sessions as I'm doing sleep and stress with the clients. And I do just as much work with the parents as I do with the kids. Because it is a group effort. One piece can't change. I'm trying to think of some sort of analogy that let's think of a screwdriver and a screw. If you change the head of that screw, but don't change the head of the screwdriver, it can't put that screw into the wall. And so if you are trying to change the head of your child's screwdriver, of the child's screw, but you're not changing your screwdriver attachment, you're not going to be able to help that screw get securely in the wall and feel secure in there.
I love that analogy, because that is exactly why I stopped teaching the students. And I love teaching the students. I absolutely love it. And you think 40 hours a week should be enough to change the, I'm changing the head of their screw, right? And I'm 40 hours a week. I'm changing the head of this kid's screw for years. Some of them I would teach for years, but the screwdriver never changed. And they went home to the screwdriver. And it doesn't matter if they're in school with me 40 hours a week or not. It starts at home. And I realized whenever I stopped teaching and I went into shifting, homeschooling my son, I was like, I just had this thought, like, I could spin my wheels all around with the children, and it's not a wasted effort by any means. But at the end of the day, they're still going home to a structure that doesn't fit who they are now. And that's why that's why I want to work with parents. That's why I work with parents. And when I do work with parents, when I have clients come on, I mean, the work I do is parent centric. Where I was teaching, it was child centric. And a lot of parents, and this is not a bad thing, a lot of parents, they want a child centric answer. So they're going to the pediatrician, they're going to the psychologist, they're going to a child therapist, they're going to the occupational therapist, and yay for early intervention, yay for all the resources. But there's not a whole lot of them saying, I need a parent-centric option to meet my child. They're looking for something that they can do to the child, for the child, da-da-da-da. It's all very much like, well, did you know that parenting has the same, if not more, impact and power than whatever your pediatrician's going to tell you, or whatever this person's going to tell you? Because even if you go to a child-centered thing, like, that's awesome, great, but the kid can't do that on an island. You have to have the tools and skills. So whenever we're working together for one of my programs, we do 12 weeks, and it's a really intensive, it's called Transform, because we're doing that. We're finding your limited beliefs, the ones that you grew up with that told you about yourself or about children. We are deconstructing those. It can be emotional. We're building new truths. And I tell you, we'll do those things. I haven't done a thing with by the child. Their child starts having improvements.
Yep.
I haven't even touched the kid. I don't talk to the kid. But you start changing that screwdriver head, suddenly you and your kid's relationship is, oh, wow, this is working. I'm screwing it into the wall. It's working. Yes.
Yeah. And absolutely. There's so much said in that. The thing I do want parents to also know in this is that your child can also then have struggles outside, which leads me to in my cares process as well, we have the one where we're making that like safety with the parent or an adult there. And you might find that your child has more outbursts when they are around somebody that is not their safety. So what we're talking about is that big piece. You're saying that big piece, that key moment where this parent is then their safety. It's their safety net. It's who they can go to. It's where they're learning all these amazing skills with. And then let's say they do go to school and they do have a teacher that they don't feel safe around, right? As you said, like as we're learning and transitioning, I mean, not all parents have the screwdriver, not all teachers have that screwdriver, right? We're all adapting and learning at a pace that works for us. And so if they don't have that screwdriver where the teacher understands, then that can have it where the child is struggling still, but they're coming home. But if they're also coming home to a parent that doesn't have these tools and skills, that's one thing. Now there's that other layer as well of when we do start looking at these kids too from the neurodiverse level of all of the different sensories that they might have and other struggles if they're executive functioning, where it might be that they can really do math, but they can't get the answers on paper, or they're struggling to remember steps of things. Like those are pieces that we can still go in and help that child with. But if that parent is like struggling with the I am worthy, period. If they're not living in that, if they're trying to go by that old style of parenting, still going by the control, then that teacher's still going to struggle with what they're doing too. Like you said, like it's 40 hours a week in the classroom to help them with certain skills and behaviors. Right. And then the parents at home help with a lot of that emotional social learning to really be setting them up for the rest of their life. Like there's always so many different pieces to this puzzle. And what you said is like a friggin' huge piece. And then once we get there, our child's nervous system is calmer. We're able to help them more. And then we're able to go, okay, let's dive what's really going under the hood of this child now. If they're still struggling, a lot of kids with what you just said, that might be all that a lot of kids need. There is still that other bucket of kids too, like my one son that I know needed still on top of that, some other pieces. So, but that needs to happen first. What you're talking about, absolutely first, so that we can peel that layer off and get them felt safety and get their nervous system regulated where they're not exploding, where that Coke bottle isn't shaking as much and exploding as much, so that we can figure out what are the other things that are now shaking that child's Coke bottle.
Yes, I think that is the foundation. Like, and I love layered support, but the home and the parents are that foundation. Like you can have a great teacher, you can have a great therapist, you can have great OT, you can have great things. But if you're building that on top of a shaky foundation, it's short-lived. Parents wonder, why are we revisiting the same problem? I thought we managed this already. I thought we fixed this. I thought my child was getting better. And it's nothing wrong with the supports that are being added. That I love supports, and I think everyone should have access to them. And I think the children should have whatever the heck they need. But if that bottom layer, which is the home, whoever those primary caregivers are, those top 3 primary caregivers, no matter who they are, if that's shaky, then you're building on top of a shaky foundation. And yes, you're going to see the cracks, you're going to see the setbacks, you're going to wonder, well, why isn't it working? I did what the pediatrician said, but the psychologist said this, I did that. And we never turned the mirror and said, oh, I'm the foundation. Like, and I deserve to be a strong foundation. I deserve to feel really good about what I'm doing. And I think parents are scared to do that because they're scared. They're nervous. They're like, well, I don't want to look too close at me. Like, I know I got troubles. Honestly, the freedom, the liberation opens up when you say, yep, that's me. Now what? Like that's where it starts. And that right there, your kid saw you do that. Your kid saw you say, you know what? This belief system isn't working for me anymore. I realize, we're not benefiting from this. I deserve better. And your kids are watching that. And so slowly you're starting to strengthen that foundation. And the kids are going, oh, I deserve more. I'm worthy just because. I can try again and it doesn't make me worse. I can explore, I can learn, and it's not damning me to do those things. They're watching that. I mean, and so they're watching you make those internal shifts, the do as I say, not as I do. They're watching, they're absorbing, they're little carbon copies, of us. And whenever we turn that mirror on ourselves and say, you know what, I deserve support, and it's okay that I don't know how to do this. It's okay that I messed up for a while. It's okay that I, did this for multiple years and now I don't want to do that anymore, whether it's yelling or spanking or timeouts or belittling. Once we can turn that mirror and say, oh, that was icky, then we can we can do something about it. But if we're not ready to turn that mirror and admit that could have maybe done that differently, that's where that, I mentioned that forgiveness. I have to forgive 20-year-old me for yelling at those kids. I would never do that today, but I had no problem doing it back then. I didn't know any different, and it was close to 5 years into my teaching career that we had a workshop, and it was called, what was it called? Oh, his craziest name. Flippins was his name. Like Flippins, capturing kids' hearts. That's what it was. That was the first emotional intelligence I think I've ever been directly taught. And I was probably 24. I was 24 years old before anyone ever taught me anything about emotional intelligence. And the way to capture a kid's heart, surprise, the answer was not control. It was connection. And I was like, mind blown. And that's when my shift started. I was like, oh my gosh, I've been doing this all wrong. Once I realized that, oh gosh, it's not control, it's connection. It was like a veil had been ripped off. I started seeing children, started seeing the child, and everything else just started to fall in line. Because when you are connected, you're cooperative, you're collaborative, you're kind, you're interested, because someone saw you for who you were, and you're like, then you're willing, you're like, oh yeah, I'm into this, you're into me, cool, let you know.
Yeah, everything shifts, right? Like it just shifts for us. Like I'm going to ask any of the parents here, all of the parents that are listening to this, like, how do you feel about yourself? So do you feel you are enough for your child? And by enough, I'm not asking about like, do you give 100% of your time and focus and energy, right? Because you can't. We have a life, we have a job, we have a spouse, right? If we have one that we need to be giving time and energy to, we may have a pet that needs time and energy. I mean, mine does, 4:30 in the morning. It's like, you need to, what is enough? Do you feel that you are enough for your child? Because that is a big one. We don't often feel we are enough for our child. And then we start adding all of these other pressured, time sensitive, sometimes cost effective things that make us feel that we need to do. When if we actually took the step back and just learned to connect with our child, we realize we are enough for them in that capacity of what we can do. So we're not asking for these parents to be adding more time and energy. We're actually taking,
yes,
we're taking guesswork away. We're taking stress away. We're giving you more energy by actually teaching you these skills with your child.
Yes.
And to help you feel connected and help you feel like you are enough.
Yes.
For your child.
The answer to that question, am I enough for my child, is a yes.
Yes.
It is a yes. It is a yes whether you're on the struggle bus. It is a yes whether you're in survival mode. It is a yes if you've been on the conscious parenting route for a long time now. It's a yes if you work. If it's a yes if you're at home. It's a yes. And I think, like you said, they want to be enough. So they add on, well, I should be doing this. Well, I'm going to try this. Or I should be doing that. And how do I sacrifice this and that? It's really not about the quantity. This is one of those quality versus quantity things. Like in that moment, when your child's acting a fool, you don't have to do anything about that. You can just be there, like just exist with them in that moment. And that's enough. You don't have to have a perfect consequence. You don't have to learn them a lesson. You don't have to, make, save face for the public. Oh, I'm so sorry, my kid's acting out. Like, oh, don't look over here. No. Kids, I've been there. Kids flawed out on the floor in public. Okay, cool. My being here, sitting next to my child on the floor with y'all chilling and living your lives, is enough. And that's exactly what he needs. So I'm going to sit right here. My body is open. I am welcoming connection. My presence is enough. And I think if parents could realize, and that's a hard lesson to learn. Like, I mean, I've been gentle parenting for seven plus years now. And I still have to tell myself, Amy, you don't have to fix this right now. Amy, you don't have to perform. You don't have to make your child better. You don't have to do something to him to make this go away. Sit down, open your body, and just be there. It sounds easy. It's surprisingly difficult to just sit down, be quiet, sit still, and just let your kid come to you with that mess and say, oh, I see your mess. I've got you. I'm here. That's enough. That's enough. And what you're showing your child in that moment is, you don't have to perform for me. Your mess doesn't scare me either. Because when their mess scares us, it scares them. Because they go, oh my gosh, no one can handle me. I can't handle myself. Oh no, they don't like this. I don't like me either. Like they start, oh, I just got chills. Because when you show them, hey, your mess doesn't intimidate me. Is it right? I'm here. They're like, oh my gosh, safety. Thank God. That need that I had for safety. Oh, it's right here. It's right here. And you'd be so surprised how many behaviors will just literally melt away. They are no longer issues because now there's predictable safety. That's all they needed. And it's crazy how something so simple can make some really ugly behaviors. Just those behaviors don't need to be here anymore. They've been dismissed. They're like, oh, I don't need to do that. Oh, okay. Well, and you're like, wow. And that's all from just saying, hey, I see you and I see your mess. I love you and I love your mess.
And the thing with that, though, is this goes back to what you were speaking about earlier as well, in that the parents do need to do the work first to be okay with that, because parents are burnt out. Parents are exhausted. Parents are stressed. They feel they can add nothing more to their plate. They cannot give their kids an ounce of calmness and energy and all of that. The thing is as a parent, once you start doing the work on yourself, you're able to start giving your kid more and more of that connection, more and more of that safety feeling, more and more attention. You're going to be drawn less to like your phone and all the other things that need to be done, that when your child really needs you, you actually can stop and give them a moment. And I mean, like a parent that is working crazy hours and doing all kinds of things. When you walk in your door at home, you're able to just go and let yourself go. Be like, okay, you know what? Work has all these things. There's an email there, whatever. I can sit here with my child for a few minutes and give them that connection that they need. And it can fill both of your buckets, right? And then you can go back to what you need to be doing, the other things too. Like it actually, all of the other things that we are doing to avoid helping our kids, or the anxiety that we have about the next outburst they're going to have, all of these things, when we can take those things off of the table and we can just sit there with them calmly in the middle of the muck, that connection just makes everything easier. That then, like, getting the kids ready and getting them out of the house just all becomes easier, that it actually de-stresses your life and allows you more energy and bandwidth into your life than the not. And then you can, if there are other struggles with your child, then you can start diving into those.
And you'll have the capacity to do that.
Right. It gives you the capacity.
The freedom that you have. I mean, I was crazy. Okay. So I come from special education, right? We're data. We're documenting. I need to document the ABC, the antecedent, the behavior, the consequence, what happened right before, what happened right after, and what am I going to tell this person, and how am I tracking these goals? Are they making progress on their goals? So I'm like, data, how long, taking the timers, my bread and butter. Well, I brought it home. I brought that vibe home to my kid. I was timing his meltdowns. I was not present. I thought I was present. I was like, I'm sitting here. I'm here, right? I'm here. I'm watching him melt down. My mind was on the clock. Oh my gosh, it's been 20 minutes. It shouldn't be lasting this long. Oh my gosh, it's been 35 minutes. I must be a really bad parent. Wow, we're hitting the 50-minute mark. What have I missed? do you know who was feeding off of that anxious tension? I'm prolonging the meltdown. It's me. I'm doing it to him with my body. And I kid you not, when I had that revelation, was I was actually going, I was still newer, not totally new, but newer to gentle parenting. I think my son was maybe 3, prime time for all those kinds of things. And the first time that I did not time his meltdown, I don't know how long it lasted. I don't know. I don't know to this day. I looked at the clock. I saw myself almost about to time, and I go, Amy, that's not being present. Sit down, open your arms, and just hold that baby. So I did. And the freedom and peace that came over me that allowed me to just be in that moment with him. I mean, I never timed a meltdown again. And I can't even tell you now, like, gosh, they're less than 60 seconds. If one comes around, they're less than a minute long. And we're there, we connect, we do it, and we move on. And it's like, oh, and here I was a few years ago timing them to 50 minutes. So that work, and to be able to sit in a moment like that takes work in itself. It's not just, okay, I'm just going to be a different person now and be able to sit through this. Like, no, we got our own triggers. Parents have their own traumas, their own triggers. Like you said, those limiting, those prior beliefs that are in the way of presence and capacity. And that's why I think this type of work is so important, because we're deconstructing all those icky layers that are telling your brain mistruths and telling you things that you don't value, or that don't move you forward. And we have to get rid of that stuff so it's quieter. And you can literally just look at your messy kid and say, hey, that's my messy kid. And it's not a good, it's not a bad, it's neutral. This is my messy kid, and we're in a messy moment, and I can exist in this messy moment, and I'm going to be okay. And me doing that is enough for my kid. That's enough. I don't have to do more. I don't have to be a different person. I just have to be, with a period. That takes skill. Okay. And so once you have that awareness and you're ready to say, oh, I want that skill, then get ready, because you're going to get rid of some of that messy stuff that's clouding you, so that you really can be there in that moment. And then your kid feels more seen, their kid feels more secure, and your healing becomes their healing. And that ripple effect, you're going to see that emotional intelligence is going to grow. Those icky behaviors are going to lessen. They're going to decrease, because your kid is becoming, that foundation that you're building is so much stronger now. And all those supports you're adding on top with the teacher, the OT, the school, oh man, the success, there's no reason at that point why success should not just come in waves, because that foundation is so solid.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, Amy, I could talk forever with you. This has been,
I could too. This has been so, I'm loving this. Thank you so much.
It's so great. So, okay, before we do go, what is one thing that you feel that the parents listening here do need to hear or know?
That's going to be something that I said before. You are worthy, with a period at the end. That means you are worthy of support. You are worthy when you get it wrong. You are worthy when your kid doesn't like you for a little while. I think one of the biggest things whenever I'm working with parents is like, hey, and like you're enough. And that's a whole belief system right there. But you are worthy. Whether you yelled at the breakfast table, whether you sat, you are worthy, and your kids see you that way. And I just want parents to step into that power, because once you step into that power, the freedom and the opportunities that come after that, because you've stepped into yourself. You're like, okay, I am unapologetically me. Here I am. I mean, just the doors that open after that, parenting included, like, wow.
Absolutely. Yeah. 2 things came into my mind when you were saying that. And the one is, oh my gosh, it's blanked on both. Yeah. Oh, so one thing that I always think of, so I used to judge all the time before I had a child with big emotions. I used to judge and be like, no, you should just be able to tell them what to do and when to do and how to do it.
Yep.
And now when I see a child acting out or doing anything, the thought that always goes in my mind is that parent is doing the best that they can with the skills and tools that they have.
Yep.
And even with the best skills and tools that you have, that child may still be having full-on meltdown because of where you've gotten, like what point you are with that child and everything too. And they still sometimes happen.
Yeah.
But it is changing that script in your mind too, that everybody is always doing the best that they can. So how you are right now today with your child, I know with every ounce of my being that you are doing the best that you can with the skills that you have and the tools that you have right now.
Yes.
The fact that you are listening to this and you're at the end of this podcast tells us that you want to add more tools, that you are going to be able to take one more step up that learning ladder, and you're going to be able to even be better. That does not mean that that is not good enough today, what you're doing, because I know you are doing with the amount of energy you have, with the amount of time bandwidth you have, with the amount of tools and skills you have. I know that every parent here is doing the best that they can. And as you learn more tools, you will learn how to be better. But that does not mean that you go back and, like you said, we have to apologize and accept that person that we were before, and accept that that person was doing the best they could. You just learned new skills and now you are doing better. That doesn't mean that other person was a bad person.
Absolutely. And it would not benefit our children if we were this robot of a parent anyways. The world is flexible. The world is ever changing. People are changing. Our children are very resilient. And so who we were when we're changing, they're changing right along with us. I like to use this analogy of like, you have a purse and it's, you get those purses, those mom purses, and you've got like tons of stuff in there from when they were a baby. And then when they're like 4 or 5, you're like, why are there 4 pacifiers in here? And you take those out, you get rid of them. And then something else goes in the purse. And in your parenting purse, you've got whatever tools you've been using. Okay. And then once you start seeing your child for who they are, and that they too are doing the best they can with the capacity they have, with the tools they have right now, you say, oh, I don't need that tool anymore. And you get rid of it and you put a new tool in. And so those old tools are still down in there, but you kind of have to, after a while, you realize, oh man, I haven't used that in a while. I have to really dig to use what was in there before, because you've put so much, like you've rotated out your purse, like you've gotten rid of the stuff that no longer worked for you. You don't need the old stuff anymore. You have this new stuff. And if you really want to pull out something crazy, you're like, oh, I have to actually go digging for that because I left it behind. Like I no longer have a threat in here. Like I don't do that anymore. No, I don't do that anymore because I shoved these newer tools as we go, and you're like, and you release it. You say, oh, I don't need that anymore. Before you know it, you've got a purse with things that suit you, things that your kid needs. So you're not going out into the world with things that aren't going to benefit either of you. You've got the stuff you actually need. And those tools are going to look different for different parents, different personality styles. But that doesn't mean that all the tools can't be respectful and connection based. But you get to decide what your tools look like. I mean, you're the one dealing with your kid. You know what works for them. You know what they like, what they don't like, etc. You know what works in those high stress moments. And the thing I love doing with parents is helping them build a purse that has tools that they like in it, and tools that work, that they can say, I'm low on capacity. What can I use? I can't use this really big, long thing. I don't have time for this whole, therapy session with my kid. I have 2 minutes. Do I have a tool for that? Yes. There you go.
Yeah. No, that's it. Love that analogy. Amazing. All right. So Amy, how can people reach you? Everything that you do say, we will have in the show notes. You've already given us some links, but how can people reach you, and what links are you offering for them?
Yes. So you can follow me on Facebook. It's called The Empowered Parent, and it's just me. It's just a one-woman show over here. And I'm on TikTok and Instagram as well. But what I'm offering in the show notes is a little freebie. It's my quiz. I just created it, and it's basically to help parents see, okay, what tools am I working with right now? It's a 5-question quiz. It's super simple. What am I working with right now? What are my strengths in doing that? Because I feel like a lot of parents think well, the tools I'm using, they're not good enough. And then we get in that shame spiral, and then we feel guilty. Then we don't want to pursue more because it's hard and it's scary. There are strengths. Whatever tools you're using, there's strengths for you as a parent in using those. So this identifies what tool you're using, tells you what your strengths are so that you can play to those strengths, something that you're really good at. And then I offer 3 tips, kind of like how we talked about today. Where are you going to go from where you're at to that next little learning rung? And so I'm offering that because I think parents just need an easy win. Like, hey, and also a pat on the back. Like, I don't want to take this quiz and someone be like, well, you suck at parenting. So ta-da, like there's something really great about what you're doing. And we want to play to those strengths. And so that's what this is designed to do, is just to help parents see what their strengths are, how to play to those strengths, and how to increase cooperation through connection-based strategies. And that's what that's my whole jam. That's what all my stuff is about. So if you go peeking around, we're connection-based. How do I get my kid to cooperate without all the icky stuff that I don't want to use?
Hmm. Amazing. Awesome. Okay. So everybody can find that in the show notes.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Amy, for being with us today.
I had a great time. Thank you so much. And you are I love just chatting with like-minded, with people who just get it. And so I'm really thankful. And I'm also thankful to your audience for choosing a podcast like this to listen to. Like, way to go. Way to go.
Amazing. Awesome. Thank you. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening today. If you would like any information on Amy, go to the show notes. You can click there. As well with me, you can find all of my links, working with me one-on-one. And if you just have questions randomly as well, just book a 30-minute call with me and hop on and ask me questions. I'm always here to help. All right. Thank you. And I will see you in the next episode.